Welcome to The Blue Dot, Northern Kentucky's premier political podcast, brought to you by the Kenton County Democratic Executive Committee. Welcome back to the Blue Dot podcast, where we explore the policies and people shaping Kentucky's future. I'm Natalie MacDonald.
And I'm Brian Koehl. Today, we're diving into a topic that's gaining momentum across the Commonwealth, pre-K for all. It's more than just an education initiative. It's a game changer for families, communities, and our economy.
Yeah, no doubt about it, Brian. And today we have quite possibly the best guest that we could have to discuss pre-K for all, as Lieutenant Governor Jacqueline Coleman will be joining us. And while she needs no introduction, our listeners may not be aware that the Lieutenant Governor is a lifelong educator, advocate, and policymaker. She's been at the forefront of efforts to transform Kentucky's public education system, and that is why we're honored to have her here today with us to talk about one of the most ambitious and impactful education initiatives in recent memory, the Pre-K for All initiative.
And for those not familiar, the Team Kentucky Pre-K for All initiative is focused on making sure that every 4-year-old in Kentucky has access to high-quality, publicly funded preschool. And the benefits are absolutely huge on a myriad of fronts, bringing better education to children, putting more money in the pockets of hardworking Kentuckians, and boosting the economy with an enormous economic impact.
Yeah, and Governor Beshear officially launched the initiative on June 4th of 2025 with a clear goal, as you said, to provide free, high-quality preschool for every 4-year-old in Kentucky, regardless of their zip code. I mean, and it is really a bold step towards closing the achievement gap and building a stronger, more inclusive economy.
Yeah, that's right. I don't want to spill too much of the tea, as I'm sure everyone is eager to hear directly from the Lieutenant Governor, but we wanted to tee up a few facts about education in the state and why pre-K for all is so important.
Yeah, and we could just start with the basics. So in 2023, more than half of Kentucky's children showed up to kindergarten already behind their peers. And that's really a staggering statistic. And as Governor Beshear himself put it really bluntly, he said, quote, "Before they even step through the door, they are behind. And this creates an achievement gap that is nearly impossible to close." And Brian, it is clear that this Pre-K for All initiative is designed to change that trajectory.
Yeah, and I do want to mention that this will act as just one of the many initiatives that the Beshear administration has implemented to improve education across the state. And the improvement efforts are measurable, as Kentucky's education ranking has risen from 45th in the nation to 34th. And I'm confident we can continue that trend as more bold policies like Pre-K for All are implemented.
Yeah, and as impressive as that sounds, it's not just about academics. It's really about opportunity. And while it does close the achievement gap before kids even step into the classroom, it also supports working families by easing the burden of childcare costs and really helps get parents back to work earlier and contributing to the economy.
Yeah, that's absolutely true. And with so much more to dig into, let's bring in today's guest. As you said, Natalie, we are honored to be joined by someone who's been at the heart of the education initiatives in the state. She's a lifelong educator, advocate for equity, and a driving force behind the push to ensure that every 4-year-old in the Commonwealth has access to high-quality preschool. Lieutenant Governor Jacqueline Coleman, welcome to the Blue Dot podcast. We are thrilled to have you.
Thank you all so much for having me.
Yeah, thanks so much. And there are just so many great things happening in Kentucky right now, thanks to your leadership, that we'd love to talk to you about. But today we'll focus on the Pre-K for All initiative. So we'll start with the big picture, and I'm going to pull a Governor Beshear line on you and ask, what is the why behind the Pre-K for All initiative, and what inspired this bold action?
Well, we know how important pre-K is for so many reasons, for so many people, and in so many ways. I would say that my interest in seeing pre-K become a reality for all came from my experience as a high school teacher. So I know that may sound counterintuitive, but as a high school teacher, sometimes what we're tasked with is what I refer to as triage, right? And it's proof that once you start behind the 8 ball, you stay behind the 8 ball. And then for the rest of your academic career, you're playing catch up. Pre-K changes all of that. It gives every kid a level playing field. It gives every kid the best start they can have. so that as they move through their academic career, they're on grade level, or we're pushing them forward, not trying to help them keep up. It just changes everything for every child.
Yeah, and that leads throughout their life, economically speaking, and everything else. We've heard you say the initiative isn't just about education; it's also about economic growth. So, can you kind of go into a little more detail on that connection?
Absolutely. So in Kentucky, we have had the biggest economic boom in our history. Since Governor Beshear and I took office, we've had about $43 billion worth of economic development investments, creating over 75,000 new good paying jobs. And so when people say, where are these workers going to come from? I would point to the data that we have on pre-K, which says that if we institute pre-K for all, which for us, it's for all 4-year-olds in Kentucky, it it could free up as many as 70,000 caregivers, mainly women, who are at home until their child goes to kindergarten, but want to be in the workforce. Either they can't afford it or they don't have access to it. There's lots of reasons, but it really is an economic driver. It supports the workforce today. It helps with economic development as a selling point, but certainly the trajectory of the children's lives who get access to pre-K are also changed forever. So this is an intergenerational, transformational project that we believe Kentucky's families need and deserve.
Yeah, that significant return on investment is what I read a Yale study that showed that for every $1 invested in pre-K, it returns $10 to the economy and to the parents. That has an increased earning by up to 21.7%. So that's like $9,000 a year, which is just absolutely extraordinary, really.
It is. And Natalie, let me point this out too, because I feel like the middle class families kind of get slighted because they make too much to qualify for maybe benefits, but they don't make enough to qualify for tax breaks for the wealthy. And so they're stuck in the middle and aren't getting any relief anywhere. And so this is that relief. I mean, this is the relief that you can provide to those working families who, again, make a little bit too much to qualify for benefits, but not enough for tax breaks. This is the way you put money back in their pocket.
Yeah, truly a universal benefit. That's great. And I know that according to the executive order from Governor Beshear, that a report is going to be due from the committee, I think, in the middle of October. So I don't know if you know exactly the answer to this question yet, or it's buried in there somewhere. But what do you see right now as the primary funding sources for pre-K for all the initiative? Are they state, federal grants, a mix of private and public partnerships? How is that fleshing out right now?
Yeah, so actually we just got our first copy of the draft yesterday. And so it is still being fleshed out. But I will say that there are lots of funding streams that can be tapped for this. And that's going to be, really, really hammering that out is going to be a partnership between the executive and the legislative branches with our budget office and things like that. But I would point to, for example, we have, those old funding streams like the lottery, and they've done a lot to fund education. But we also have new funding streams like sports betting. And so we are looking at every angle and are trying to, in ways that we can, braid funds. And we're trying to make sure that we maximize Head Start, because that's a federal funding, a federally funded pre-K program, which helps free up seats and dollars for kids that don't qualify for Head Start. So there's lots of opportunities and lots of options. We've just got to be willing to sit down at the table across party lines, across, political branches, and say we're willing to put our differences aside and figure out how to make this happen, because it's possible. It is absolutely possible. And quite frankly, it's long overdue.
Yeah. Yes, that's for sure.
Absolutely. And then another thing that I wanted to touch on is that across the state of Kentucky, a lot of people, especially in rural communities, they really lack that adequate childcare that we need for our children. And we refer to those as the childcare deserts. I think 79 out of our 120 counties meet this description. And I was just wondering if the infrastructure is there and to reach out to these rural communities and help with the education disparities that we're seeing in our rural and underserved communities as well.
Yeah. And you're exactly right. I grew up in rural Kentucky. My hometown is Bergen, and we have about 1,000 people in a 4-way stop, and that's it. So I was living in Mercer County when the governor asked me to run with him. So I've spent my entire life living and teaching in rural Kentucky. And so my big thing here is to make sure that this opportunity reaches every zip code. And every community has different challenges. So, for example, in the urban areas like Lexington and Louisville, they may have, pre-K programs or childcare facilities, but they don't have enough seats for everybody because there's so many people in that area. By contrast, in rural communities, there are no seats to be had because they don't have any kind of formal childcare or pre-K services available. And so building this out statewide is going to look differently because our communities look differently. But I do believe, and I've said this to the governor from the beginning, mainly because I'm a teacher and I know what happens when we try to, we think that once we wave the pen, magically things happen. And that's not how it works in education. But the important thing is it's a phased approach because this is about high quality education. This is about building a new workforce. This is about making sure we have transportation and services that are available to these school districts. And this is about making sure these school districts have the infrastructure and the room. So again, this is a big bite of the apple, but it can be done. And if we're looking at where we are now, Kentucky is already 20 years behind Oklahoma. So then when you take that we're 20 years behind Oklahoma, now take one of the counties in Kentucky that's a childcare desert and compare them to a county that's not, and that county is even farther behind. So,
Really?
like I said, the time is now. We have no reason not to do it because it is so important in every aspect of our lives.
That really hits home when you state a child's zip code should not predetermine, their potential for success later in life. I mean, that just nails it right there. And that's exactly what we're facing with these childcare deserts and these underserved communities. And just talking, as you're talking there, I'm thinking about the economic boon that just building this infrastructure and building all these services could actually mean to Kentucky. I hadn't really even thought about that until you started talking about everything that's required or will be required.
Yeah, it really is. And I'll draw this line for your listeners because this really helps to clarify it, certainly for me. But when I say this to people, I see that they're kind of shocked by it. But we project prison populations by third grade literacy rates. Okay. So that's shocking enough when you just take a minute to digest that, right? So if we're forecasting prison populations by third grade literacy rates, then the next logical question is, well, how do we improve third grade literacy rates? And the answer to that is kindergarten readiness. Okay. So when more than half of Kentucky's kids walk through the door on the first day of kindergarten not ready. Okay. So then you think, okay, well then how do we get our kids ready for kindergarten? And the answer to that is access to pre-K. And so you can draw a direct line from lack of pre-K to overcrowded prisons. And so I always say we can invest in our kids on the front end, or we are literally going to pay for it on the back end. And I think it's pretty much a consensus that we would rather build preschools than prisons. That's not a hard thing to agree on. And so we've just got to commit to putting one foot in front of the other and getting this done.
Yeah. And amazing points. And I know you've been out there conducting these town halls all across the state. And I'm wondering if you're getting the same feedback that we're getting. We were at the Kenton County Fair, and I think every single teacher who was there came up to us and said, please make this happen.
Absolutely. We had some that would just walk by and just go pre-K for all. And yeah.
So it's working that you're getting the message out there. But yeah, I'm just wondering, when you go to these town halls, are you getting the same feedback? It seems like people are really behind this.
So it's interesting that you say that because I feel like it's a real common agreement among educators that this is necessary, right? So We've tried to do this through the education community for several years, and the governor's put funding for pre-K in his budget every year, and it's not made it through the General Assembly. So we've taken a different approach this time, and he, through executive order, created the Pre-K for All Advisory Committee, and it is full of state leaders, educators, parents, business leaders, community leaders. It is the whole spectrum of people who believe in pre-K. And through these town halls that you're mentioning, Natalie, we're bringing people together in regional communities across Kentucky, and we're asking what they want to see, how they want this legislation to be crafted, because this bill is not Andy Bashir's or Jacqueline Coleman's. This bill is going to be literally written by the people of Kentucky based on what they want to see happen with pre-K for all. And so now we're getting people who are signing on, legislators from both sides of the aisle, county judge executives all over Kentucky, mayors all over Kentucky, businesses and business leaders who think, oh, this is a great incentive that when you're recruiting a workforce, we can say we have this available.
Absolutely.
Right. So it's
huge.
the same. Yeah, it's the same issue, but we're building a coalition in a different way that's coming to our General Assembly with a different message about it. And so we're really hopeful that this time, this kind of message will resonate with them.
Yeah, it's a true grassroots versus top-down approach, for sure. So we were going to ask about support across party lines. I think you addressed that question there in your answer. It sounds like it's pretty broad. But what's next for the initiative after the report's published? And how can Kentuckians get involved? Us regular people, how can we help?
That's a great question. So we're the draft report that really brings in all of these pieces is in our hands, and we're editing it, and we're going to be able to push that out soon. The feedback that we're getting from folks at these town halls all across Kentucky are going to be it's going to be the advice and the recommendations that we utilize to build this bill, and then of course our budget folks are going to help us kind of weave together some funding to make it a reality. So I would say if somebody out there thinks, I love the idea of pre-K for all, and I want to be able to talk about it more, or I don't know anything about it at all and I want to learn about it, they should go to prekforall.ky.gov. That's a real easy thing to remember, prekforall.ky.gov. And there you'll find a website with lots of resources, stats, facts and figures, and all of those things that you need to be able to make the best decision possible. And to make sure that we put all of this together and make it happen.
Yes. And we really appreciate your thoughts on all of this and coming to talk to us. But before we let you go, we do like to do a little lightning round of questions with all of our guests, just 5 fun fact questions to get to know you better if you're up for that.
Of course.
Some of these came from our listeners, so they're pretty fun and easy. But okay, the first one is: are you a Kentucky Derby or Oaks fan?
Well, because I'm the lieutenant governor and I give the trophy out at the Oaks, I really enjoy that day. But I will say that I really am. I'm going to have to say both on this one, because the Oaks is the day the lieutenant governor gets to give out the trophy, and that's a big day for me. But also the Derby, I joke with the governor that when it comes around, I'm off the clock and he's up, so I get to have a little bit more fun that day.
That's good.
All right. What is the last show you binge watched?
The last show I binge watched was Sirens on Netflix, and it's really good.
Okay. It's a good one. I haven't watched that one yet, but I've heard.
I haven't tried that one either.
It's good. It's Julianne Moore, Megan Fahey, Kevin Bacon. It's a great cast.
Great cast.
Oh, yeah, I remember that now with Kevin Bacon. He's quite the enigma. I'll have to check that out.
All right. This is a hard one. If you had to describe Kentucky in one word, what would it be?
I would say team.
Yeah, Team Kentucky. All right, this one is a little selfish because you played basketball and you coached basketball, and I was a player myself, so I have to ask a basketball question. All right, as a player, which defense would you rather play against? A zone defense or a man-to-man?
I would say as a player, I would want to play against a zone because I was a shooter.
That's right. That was the reason I asked. I was a good 3-point shot, foul line extended all day long, and I loved the play.
That's right.
Yeah. And I read you were a shooting guard, so I like that.
Yes.
All right, and then this one may be the hardest one. If you had to choose an amazing race partner, would it be Governor Bashir, First Lady Brittany Bashir, or First Dog Winnie Bashir?
Well, I hope that I don't have to rank them, but this is actually an easy question. I would pick Brittany.
Okay. Well, I put Winnie in there as an off-ramp for you, in case you...
And we won't ask you who number 2 is, we promise.
Please don't, because you'll get me in trouble. No, I'm kidding.
Yeah, right. Lieutenant Governor, thank you so much for joining us. It was extremely informative discussion, a lot of fun, and it's a really important topic, and we are so glad that you helped us bring this to our listeners.
Yeah, well, thank you all for caring about it, and thank you all for talking about it and helping to spread the word and educate people, because that's really critical in this last stretch for us to get this done going into the legislative session. So prekforall.ky.gov.
Absolutely.
All right.
Thank you so much.
We'll spread the word. Thank you so much. Bye-bye.
Thank you. Thank you, guys.
And as you know, we like to close every podcast with a call to action. And as we've been discussing Pre-K for All, this initiative isn't just about kids. It's about families, communities, and the future of Kentucky. It's smart policy with real impact. So our call to action to you is to learn more and get involved by going to www.prekforall.kentucky.gov to learn more about the initiative and see how you can help. Your voice does matter because every child deserves a strong start. So go there and make your voice heard and make a difference in giving our kids the resources they need to excel. And the Kenton County Dems will also be hosting a fall fundraiser on Thursday, November 13th from 6:30 to 8:30 at the American Legion in Latonia. So we'd love to see you there. And what about you, Brian? What do you have up your sleeve?
Well, I've been monitoring the activity around the big No Kings demonstration day coming up on October 18th, and it's really ramping up and promising to be a significant day of protest. I invite everyone to check out the official No Kings website. That's www.nokings.org. You can see a map of all the planned events, and also they have a lot of training sessions out there. And the training really revolves around knowing your rights, how to protest safely, de-escalation tactics. I know some of this can sound scary or intimidating to first-timers especially, but these are just like the rules of the road of protesting for safe and effective demonstrating. If you're thinking about taking to the streets, you might want to check these out. Again, the website's www.nokings.org. As of right now, I see rallies scheduled in Florence, Lexington, Louisville, Moorhead, lots of other Kentucky locations. And for us Northern Kentuckians, there are demonstrations planned for downtown Cincinnati and out in Claremont County. So if you are angry, disgusted, frustrated, scared, overwhelmed, or all of the above, consider exercising one of our most fundamental rights, the right to assemble and protest. This is enshrined in the First Amendment, and there's a lot of conversation around the First Amendment these days. Public protest is one of the ways that we, as citizens, can legally and effectively exercise this most basic constitutional right. Folks, this is how we win.
Absolutely. It's so important to get out there and make your voice heard. And with that, that is our podcast. Thank you all for joining. And we hope to see you at our next canvassing event, our happy hours, or anywhere Kentuckians are coming together to fight for a better future.
Yep, we'll be back in 2 weeks to bring you up to speed with all things political in Kenton County and beyond.
And don't forget, you can always join the conversation at our Facebook and Instagram pages or at blue.podcast.com. And if you like listening to the pod, consider donating to help fund it, which you can do by clicking on the donate link at blue.podcast.com. And as always, until next time, stay curious, keep the facts in focus, and never stop fighting for what matters. Peace out, everybody.